I understood what hard looked like. I understood what hard felt like. I knew what it looked like. I had faced it before, therefore I could overcome it. Often the things that we are wanting to accomplish, the things that we want to do, they're stopped not by like our competence, but like our confidence and the ability to do it. And I am so happy that I did it. I am so happy that I pushed through the hard things because I feel 1,000 times better. I do not care if it is a placebo. I do not care if it's actually doing nothing in my head. The way that I feel after I have done it is all right, we're rolling. Welcome back to the Dreamers Misfits podcast. Here we are in episode 3, number 3. This is great, man. This creating content is a beast. Creating content. Frig, I hate that. I hate what content has become. There's something that I posted a while ago, and it was talking about how I was talking about the relationship between art and content, and I said that like one of the biggest downfalls of social media is you have reduced art to content, therefore reducing artists to content creators. And I think it does such a disservice to people who are legitimate artists, people who are legitimately trying to create something to evoke emotion, to make impact, something that makes you think, something that lasts beyond themselves, something that has a legacy, something that lasts beyond someone's ability, somebody's life. And I think content creation is something that is become a commerce. It's become something that is, people make money doing it, people have careers of doing it, which is great. But I think there is a fine line where it's like artists have to become content creators in order to be successful, which sucks because I think it especially in a world where content is consumed so quickly, often you have to produce so many things, and quantity is, for the platforms and algorithms and stuff like that, quantity is actually outweighs quality. And that's a hard thing when you think of someone like Michelangelo, who created the David statue, and it took him like a lifetime. Like it took, I don't exactly know I think it was years. I was actually listening to something recently and was talking about how his devotion to creating the David statue was unlike anything else, almost to like, it's like such an extreme, because he was like hanging out with like dead bodies. He was basically like a mortician, where he was dissecting bodies to understand the anatomy. And it was before that was like a general practice, and he was doing it all for his craft, because he was trying to understand the human body so that he could best sculpt a human body, which is fascinating. There's so many things that you can take from that, and the idea of like being obsessed with something in terms of to like better your craft, and being so insanely obsessed with this one thing that you need to put out into the world that you will do whatever it takes. It takes maybe like years of devoting yourself to one thing because it might make you better in another thing. And that is one of those things where it's like when you become obsessed with making an impact or creating something or a legacy that will outlast your life, often that is where those types of obsessions manifest, which is interesting, because those things and those people are few and far between, and there are very, very few people in the world and in our history who are to be remembered because they got obsessed with one thing, and they got so obsessed with it and often dabbled in other things to inevitably just lift up the one thing that they're trying to create or they're trying to do or accomplish. Which there's a a guy by the name of Alex Hormozy, and he has this saying, or he has this quote where he's talking about how you are never going to be remembered. And it was actually just after Queen Elizabeth died, and he said that nobody is ever going to remember you 3 generations from now. Nobody's going to even remember your name. That's not a direct quote, but that's basically the essence of what he was trying to say. And then he uses the example of like the Queen Elizabeth just died, and have you thought of her in the past month or so? Which is really interesting, because that actually like offends a lot of my values and my own beliefs that you can create something that is outlasting, and outlast your life, and you can have impact beyond just the time that you have on the earth. And it's something that I've been kind of wrestling with, because a few other creators, and a few other people who I like very, very much respect have quoted this and then elaborated on this theory and elaborated on what it is that he's talking about. And they all basically agree with this idea where you will not be remembered 3 generations from now. People will not even remember your name. Which is interesting because there are so many people in history, and of course, there's nuance to everything. So, like, I'm not blaming anybody for quoting this. I think in the essence of what he's trying to say, I understand and I get. However, I do think that there is, there's another line to it where I don't actually. I think if you live a life like that, you can forget about a legacy that you are leaving behind. And the other people that I've seen create this, or the other people that I've seen talk about the same thing, all of them have the same thing in common. And what that one thing is they don't have kids. And I think when you have kids, something shifts and something changes. And this is a belief that I've had even before I had kids, but that a belief of creating a legacy, creating something that is going to outlast what it is that you are. And the reason why is because I have seen in my family a generational, I don't want to say curse, but like generational habits that have happened throughout my family, where my family has been very known and prone to be have addiction issues. And when I saw this at a young age, I made a decision for myself that I'm not gonna, like, I recognized it and I saw that there was this pattern that was happening in my family, and I decided for myself that I'm not gonna do certain things. I'm gonna be really, really careful on what I do and what I try and the things that I'm going to do in my life, because I don't want an addiction to overcome my life. And being like super aware of that, I have seen a legacy that wasn't a good one. And I think when we talk about legacy and we talk about things that are going to outlast us, inevitably we think of the good things. We think of, what can I bring down to my kids, or what can I pass down to my kids? What's the kind of parent that I'm going to be? What's the kind of leader that I'm going to be? What are the things that I can pass on? And I think we often think of those good things, but in my instance, I saw the bad. I saw the bad legacy. I saw a lot of different things that I didn't want to pass on. So therefore, I like understood this concept of things can be passed on. It's your decision whether they're going to be good or they're going to be bad. And with understanding that and understanding, I just realized that there's a vehicle in which things can be passed on, and you get to decide whether they're going to be good or they're going to be bad. So when I hear this saying, and when I hear this quote of "you are not going to be remembered by." Your name is not going to be remembered 3 generations from now. I can understand that, because, I mean, 3 generations from now would be like my dad, my grandpa, my great grandpa, which I do like remember his name is Jacob. Even though I didn't meet him, I still know who he is. I've seen pictures of him and whatnot. However, his father, couldn't tell you. I have no idea what his name is. So, like, yes, I can understand that. However, I do think that the remnants of your life will impact generations to come. And I think that is something to take into account, and something to take responsibility for. If you're someone who is wanting to take control of your life and to have some sort of legacy, that is something that you want to do. That's something that you want to, even though my great grandkids might not actually know my name, I want them to be able to live a life in abundance and in freedom and have an amazing like emotional awareness and all these things because of things that we as a family decided that we're going to start now, and that we wanted better for our kids, so therefore our kids wanted better for their kids and their kids wanted better, and so on and so forth, and therefore 5-10 generations removed there's going to be a restart of a legacy, a reversal of what the legacy was. So yes, I understand the sentiment of it, whereas you're not going to be remembered 3 generations from now, so just do whatever it is that you want to do, essentially. However, like I said, like all of these people who are repeating these things, they don't have kids. And having kids is something that you cannot explain. It's something, when you have kids, there is a shift that happens in you. And you know what? It doesn't actually happen for everyone. I will say it doesn't actually happen for everyone, because I have seen people who should not be parents and should not, and that didn't shift for them. However, for most people, there's a shift that happens, and I can't even explain it. It's a physical, it's an emotional, it is something that there's a love that grows inside you that you never knew that you had before, or you even had capacity for. It's your love capacity, like your love tank grows and exponentially deeper and exponentially more. And even the words that I'm saying now are not even a great explanation for what it is, because it is something like so guttural. It's something so deep, something that you can't really explain, and you can convey it the best way that you possibly can. But until you have kids, you can't understand it. And I thought I would understand it. I thought I understood it before, but then it happened to me, and I was like, oh, I get it. It's just something that's different, and you know, different people want different things, and I can't. I can understand why people wouldn't want kids in terms of freedom and things like that. But after having kids, I can't imagine ever not wanting something like that, not wanting a legacy. And it's not even like a legacy like for me, like I want to fulfill my dreams. I want to do the things that I feel as though that have been placed on me and why I've been brought into this world. Like I want to accomplish those things. But even more, I want my kids to accomplish those things. And like part of like why I want to do what I want to do and achieve the dreams and the goals and work hard and all these things is simply to give an example for my kids so that they have a template or some sort of version of someone chasing their dreams, so that that is like tangible and real, that they've seen the day to day, that they're like, oh, this is the thing that I can replicate and improve on to do the same thing for myself. Because that is something that I wish that I had, like that my family were never dream chasers. They were never people who were chasing something that was really bigger than themselves. And which is like okay. Like I don't think that is like, not everyone is supposed to be a leader in this world. Not everybody is supposed to be on the front edge of everything. Not everybody is supposed to be the person who's pushing the status quo. There are people that need to like people who push the status quo need people to push back on them. Like there's this like symbiotic relationship that has to occur and has to happen, where these things they have to coexist. And I don't fault my family for it, even in the slightest. Like I think like my mom is a nurse, my stepdad is a teacher, and my dad was a mechanic. All very respectable professions. But with that being said, my grandfather, who passed away last year, he was like me, and I could see it inside of him. He was a dreamer. He was someone who had the greatest potential. He had so much. He was a brilliant, brilliant man who had so much to offer the world. And I don't believe that he actually had the opportunity to chase the dreams that he wanted to. And I don't know if that was a conscious decision that he ever made. I don't know if that was like part of the time that he grew up in, because he fled Russia and Germany when he was like a kid with his mom, and then came to Canada. So like I don't ever know if that was really something that he even had the opportunity to wrestle with or think about or really try to engage with, because of the time that he grew up in. He grew up in Saskatchewan in a tiny farm. He grew up as a farmer, and then he started working on farm equipment, and then he loved mechanics. He was like, from the stories I've heard, he was one of the first engineers at Caterpillar. He had so much potential for doing amazing, amazing, great things, but never achieved anything that was bigger than himself. Though he built an amazing family, though he built, I am a byproduct of him. I always, I just felt like there was always more that he wanted to offer the world. And I thought there was more that he could have offered the world, but for some reason he decided, or maybe he didn't decide, maybe it was just circumstances that caused him to pursue the things that he did. That when he passed last year, it hit me harder than I thought it would, because we knew that he was going to pass. He had pancreatic cancer, and we knew that he was going to pass. So we had like time to. I had time to like understand that was gonna happen. Also, he was also in his 80s, so like, we just knew that like his time was coming, and it hit me. It hit me because I was like, man, he even said that it went so fast, and I just like wondered if he had any regrets for not doing the things that he wished or felt as though that he could have done. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is that I don't want to be 80 and be mad at my 20, 30-year-old self because he didn't just put in the work and didn't chase the things that he wanted to do because of circumstances that are fleeting, or financial situations, or structures or infrastructures that you're involved in. That's just an option that I don't really feel as though is one that I want to even entertain. And it's hard when you see a family member walk through something like that, because you have all the love in the world for them, and you want them to do more. You want them to fulfill exactly who it is they feel as though they've been called to, or feel as though they've been put on this earth to do. And it's hard to see that, and hard to watch that struggle of that reconciliation of what could have been and what is. So for me, that was a decision that I made young, that I knew that I wanted to chase the dreams that I had. But it's also something that, like, there are certain things in life that kind of like hit you, and you're like, oh, yep, no, I got to keep going. Like, keep going, keep grinding, keep doing the things that you need to do, because it's going to be worth it. And it is so it happens so fast. Like, I'm only 28. So, like, I understand that I'm relatively young in the grand scheme of life. However, with that being said, like my wife and I have been married for 6 years. We've known each other for since we were like 12 and 13, which is like so wild to me because it, like, just the other day we were talking about how it feels as though her and I just met. It feels as though that, like, we feel like we're still 16, but like we have 2 kids and are married and we've been married for 6 years, and we have like financial responsibilities, and we like have to keep two kids alive, and like it's just weird because we still feel like we're 16. But it is something, it is also a perspective that I feel as though that we've gained, because when we got married, we moved across the country. So when we moved across the country, time became a very different thing to us, because when we first got married and we were single, or like when we first got married and we were like just out here by ourselves, and we didn't have kids, we would often fly back to see our family multiple times a year. And then as we had kids, things started to get a little bit harder and a little bit tougher. So like we don't fly back as often. And like people do fly in to see us sometimes. But like in person, we'll probably see our families once or twice a year. And a little like perspective shift that both her and I had, specifically when it came to our grandparents, because her grandparents live completely on the other side of the country. They live in Newfoundland, where we live in British Columbia. And so 2 years ago now, we just decided to go visit her grandparents because in Newfoundland, because we're like, okay, now's the time to do it. You know, our daughter Ember was still free for flights and stuff like that, so like, oh, we should do it now because we don't know when we're going to see them next. And the perspective that we had and we shifted when we moved across the country was not how many years we have left with our family, but more of how many visits we have left. And that came into a huge reality when my grandfather got sick. And when my grandfather got sick, I was like, when I moved out here, I was like, oh, I might have 5 years left with my grandpa. But then when we made that shift and we started talking about it, I was like, I actually don't have 5 years with him. I have like maybe 5 times I'm going to see him again. And every time you see that person, you think this might be the last, specifically with grandparents. But then, I mean, that is a reality. Like, life is dangerous. Like, things can happen and it's unexpected. But that's just a reality of things happen, where it's like, you know, we might see her grandparents one more time. We might see her grandparents 10 more times, and that's amazing. But the reality is like, in, you know, as they're getting older and things like that, like, time is extremely fleeting, and we might have 3-4 more visits with them that we're going to have. And when that happens, you have a respect and, like an excitement for the times that you are together, because you're like, I'm not going to waste this, because it's extremely fleeting, and you're going to be extremely intentional in this. And it allows us to be extremely intentional in those times, to be like, oh, if, you know, this is time for the last 4 times, I only have 3 more times to see them, then it's, yeah, you just are way more intentional with the time that you have, because you know that it is unbelievably fleeting, and it happens so fast. And the same thing with when you have kids, time flies. I can't believe, like, my daughter's turning 3 this year, and it still feels like we just had her, and it's so crazy. And then we're adding another one to the mix, and then it's going to be like, okay, well then, like, it's just going to make time go faster. So it's like, okay, well, when do you have time to chase your dreams? When do you have time to do these things and to make the impact that you feel as though you are here on this earth to make? And the only answer to that question is now. Because when people are like, the best time to start something was 10 years ago or right now. So if you didn't start 10 years ago, now is the time to do it. Even recording this podcast, I was like, I need to do this week. I need to do this week. And it's already Wednesday, and I'm like, I need to, and then finally I was like, I need to sit down right now. I need to do it right now. Because if I didn't, then again, the time would just constantly just go and go and go. And it would happen so fast. So there's an urgency of like doing the things that you want to do. Just do the things that you want to do now. However, with that being said, there's also this intentionality that you need to have. And there's this beautiful balance that has to happen with this intentionality that you're there in the moment and you're taking in every moment, but then you're also maximizing the things that you're doing to be the most effective things that you're doing. And I think that this is like a really, really good depiction of what Alex Hormozy is really saying when it's like 3 generations from now, they're not even going to know your name. And I don't know. I think the people who are remembered longer than 3 generations are often the people who are not necessarily that did amazing things, but did things with great intention. Because those are the people who make a difference, because that is something that is transferable. So like it's the intangibles that are transferable more from generation to generation than it is the actual things. Like obviously generational wealth and things like that, like a true generational wealth in my opinion is not a filled bank account, but it's tools in which how to fill your bank account. Those are the things that I believe that produce generational wealth. So for me, I don't want to teach my kids, or I don't want to just show up to my kids with a large bank account and with an inheritance and be like, here you go. But the thing that I want to teach them is I want to teach them how to make money. I want to teach them how to properly use it. I want to teach them that like at the end of the day, money is a tool to live the life that you want to do, and how to maximize it and do those things, and how to ensure that you will never not need money. Those are the types of things that I want to instill and teach my kids, because those are the things that I never learned, and I am still continue to learn, because it's not like my bank account is completely bottomless. However, I do know if we're ever in a bind, there's 2 things. One, there is no job that is beneath me. So I have always said to my wife, I was like, if we ever actually needed to, I would go and work at McDonald's if I had to. That is like, nothing is beneath me. 100%, that would like be extremely humbling. However, I'm also like, nothing's beneath me. So if that is what we need at the time, then that is what I would do at the time. And 2, I just truly believe that being a work in progress, being someone who is teachable, being someone in a position that never expects anything from anybody, is a posture in which people are going to appreciate in the world. People in the marketplace are going to appreciate in the world. And those are the things that I want to teach and instill in my kids, that if nothing is beneath you and you're willing to do the work and find money, or find it, like in anything, you should always be, if you're asking someone to do the job, you'd be willing to do it yourself. And doing those things, being that person of intention, and are things that I truly believe that are inexpensible and will forever put you in positions that will inevitably pay well, give you opportunities, and be the caveat that will be able to create the life that you want to create. I had a friend who was telling me about some interns that they had, and how their interns had like a chip on their shoulder, where they wanted to be preaching on stage, they wanted to be speaking at different events, they wanted to be doing all these things, and yet they would give attitude or be frustrated or feel as though they're being underutilized when they got asked to sort files, or to potentially clean up after an event, or to stack chairs, or do certain things like that. And something that I learned pretty quickly in general, just in like when working for different companies and doing these things, is that if you want to be on a stage, if you want the spotlight, if you want to be center stage of it all, you have to be willing to get your hands dirty and build the stage yourself. And I think if you don't have that mentality that you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to do the lowest job beneath you, I think I'm like concerned of the quality of leader that you are. In school, this concept was that the idea of not student leadership, of servant leadership. And it's this idea of, the whole picture comes from when Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, where it's this story that is told within the Bible, and it's the disciples, the people that were following him, came in and they're having a meal, and in that time, you didn't have shoes, so your feet were like absolutely disgusting, and you're walking and stuff like that. And when you walked into a house or something like that, you would wash your feet or have your servant wash your feet. And there's this idea where there's like this role reversal where Jesus comes in and invites his friends in, and he gets down where he's the leader, and he gets down on his knees and he washes the feet of the people that are following him. And it's this complete reversal of the kingdom. It's a complete reversal of what is expected to happen. And I think that's what makes an amazing leader. People are willing to do the things. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to do those things. It doesn't necessarily mean that like you need to be in the inner workings of every tiny detail of your business to be for it to work. You need to be doing all those little tiny things, but it's the posture and it's the place that you need to be in where it's like you're willing to do those things, and it's not above you to do those things. Those are the types of things that I think truly make a good leader. And something that my wife and I, again, were talking about just the other day, because it is summer here, it is extremely hot, and even actually when I was recording this last podcast, I could watch my skin getting redder and redder because this office gets so freaking hot, and it's like 35 degrees Celsius outside. And so it's getting summer, and in summer, the first thing that my wife wants is a watermelon, because it is watermelon season. She absolutely loves watermelon. Side note, I used to love watermelon. Watermelon used to be my favorite thing. Anything watermelon. When it came, Jolly Rancher watermelon, yeah, that's it. I would sit down and eat an entire watermelon by myself. Until one time when I was a kid, I was going downstairs, because we had a downstairs fridge in our downstairs where we kept like all the things that took up way too much space. So when I went downstairs, I went to go grab the watermelon, and when I went to go pick it up, my hand went right through it. And the smell of the watermelon was the most disgusting smell. And it was so hard to get off my hands. And to this day, I have never eaten a watermelon since. Because the idea of it is the most disgusting thing in the world. We were talking about watermelons because they were coming in and we're like, what makes a good watermelon? What makes a bad watermelon? Because apparently, like, the larger and the darker the yellow spot is on the back, and the more webbing it is, the sweeter it is. And there's like all these different things that tell you what a good watermelon is. And then I started doing some research on watermelons, because the things that you do for your pregnant wife. As I was doing some research, I understood. I was like, man, where did seeded watermelons go? Where did they just disappeared? I remember when it was you have watermelon, then you have seedless watermelons, which are more expensive, but you can't find seeded watermelons anywhere. And it's really interesting because in this investigation of watermelons, I came across this how watermelons are created. Basically, they're not genetically modified, but however, they are cross-pollinated a specific way, which makes a seedless watermelon. However, the thing that makes a watermelon have more seeds is if a watermelon goes under certain stresses and certain conditions. So if a watermelon has lack of water, has too much sun, the soil is not nutrient enough, if it goes through large temperature swings and all these things. If all of these things happen, or different types of these things, a watermelon will produce more seeds. So basically, the more stress that a watermelon is under, the more seeds that it's going to produce. And I thought this is the most beautiful analogy for how you create something that is going to last, and something that is going to create something that is going to go beyond themselves. Because what happens is, when a watermelon is under stress, and when a watermelon is under these poor conditions, it produces more seeds. Therefore, it can continue its legacy, and it can continue these things on, because it is like conditioned to its surroundings. It's conditioned to its environment, and it's creating things inside of it that can be passed on to reproduce it later on, and to create more and more fruit further down the road. And the more that I thought about this, I was like, man, this is the perfect analogy that is in nature, and is so beautiful, how in order to do things, you need to do hard things, to stress, to work on yourself, to become the person that you want to be. You need to do hard things. Hard things are important for you to do. And this is something that I'm something that a newer concept, in terms of, I feel as though it's becoming extremely popularized among certain groups, where it's do hard things. It's a mantra that has been seemingly more and more popular, which I think is a beautiful thing, because I think doing hard things is what makes great people. You cannot have, I don't think you can have a person in a perfect environment. They might be able to achieve something, a person in an environment, in a perfect environment, you might be able to achieve something that is great, but I don't know if it will reproduce something that is going to outlast itself. Because the interesting part about seedless watermelons is they are sterile. So basically what happens is they pollinate it a certain way, creates a seedless watermelon, and that's it. That is the end of its life, where it is not able to actually produce more fruit, which is, again, the perfect depiction for how to create someone or something that is going to have a lasting impact, that is going to affect something that is beyond itself. Doing hard things is a prerequisite of creating anything with legacy. Doing hard things is so important. Something that I've been taking up recently is I've been taking up running. A friend of mine texted me, and it texted a group of us in January, and it was like, "Hey guys, I'm doing a 10K run in May. Who's in?" And in my mind, I was like, 10K. That's a lot. I was like, that is probably beyond how far I can run. And he is just like, yeah, I'm just trying to, continue to just work out and do better and all these things. I'm like, you know what? 10K. I was like, if some other people are doing it, I'll do it with you. Let's do it. Whatever, 10K. And I was like, it was January. It's in May. I was like, I have 5 months. I can figure it out. And then I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I was like, okay, so I'm going to go on my first run. And my first run, the first kilometer in, I was like, I am dead. I don't know what I'm going to do. My heart rate's at 200. What is happening? This is horrible. And then we started to train some more, started to do some more learning about the techniques of running, and how to maximize training and all that kind of stuff. And we were working, and it was hard. The first little bit was so hard. And then what's funny is that when it came to the race, it was in May, and both him and I were we didn't sign up and we didn't do it, because we were by the time we continuously just worked, and by the time that the race came, 10K was nothing to us. Where we're I don't want to pay money to go run a 10K, because we just do that on the regular now. which is so interesting because 10 kilometers in January to me sounded absolutely insane. And yesterday I went for a run and I was like, oh, I'll just do 10K. And the difference in your ability, the shift is just like, it's wild to me. It's so wild to me. And even like you are so much more capable of doing things that are way beyond yourself. You are so much more capable of doing things that you never even thought were even close to what you thought you could be able to do if you just are willing to embrace that things are hard and embrace the hard, and understanding that doing hard things amidst those hard things is when you're becoming a better person, is when you're becoming stronger, is when you are actually like changing the trajectory of your life because you have decided to endure in these hard things. And like that goes in, yes, in sport, that I feel like that's like an easy analogy when it comes to in sport, where it's like if you do hard things, if you work out, if you just like continue on the path, then you're going to see progression. But that is like in anything. It's in business, it's in thought, it's in like bettering yourself and like continue to like have a better mindset, and all of these things that if you continuously do hard things and you're okay with having hard things and pushing through hard things, then you're going to understand what hard feels like. And then when it comes, it's fine. For example, again, when it comes to running, one day I was like, I'm going to run a half marathon today. I'm just going to go do it. And because of me pushing through that hard earlier with smaller runs and different things, when I was running the half marathon, I was probably about 15 kilometers in, and which is like, no, that's not true. I was at the halfway point, because I remember hitting the halfway point and I was like, what did I do? Because I ran out halfway, and then I was like, if I run out halfway, I have to run back. So I basically trapped myself into running a half marathon, and I ran out halfway and I was like, I can stop right now. I was like, I should probably stop. My body's hurting. Like, this is probably not good for my knees. This is like, I should probably stop. And then I was like, no, Ben, this is what hard feels like. You said this morning that you're going to do a half marathon. So this is what you're going to do. So you're going to keep going and you're going to grind through it. And I started running, and like a kilometer later, I was like, oh man, thank God I didn't stop. Thank God I didn't stop. That would have absolutely sucked if I had stopped. And it's all because I understood what hard looked like. I understood what hard felt like. I knew what it looked like. I had faced it before, therefore I could overcome it. And often the things that we are wanting to accomplish, the things that we want to do, and the things that we really, really need to do or want to do in life or have dreams for, they're stopped not by like our competence, but like our confidence and the ability to do it. And I think we just need to just do the thing. We just need to continuously just do these things. But I think the caveat to that is we need to be able to do hard things. I posted a video a while ago talking about cold plunging. And cold plunging is like, people talk about cold plunging all the time. And I'm not like trying to be a Rogan here. I'm not trying to, like, I just, it is something that I saw, something that I've seen people do, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And people were saying like how much better I feel in the morning. And that for me was enough to be like, I want to try it. So I got one. And I started cold plunging. And cold plunging sucks. It sucks in the way that every single time you do it, you do not want to do it. Every single time you don't want to do it. There have been many times where I like put one foot in and I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, why are you even trying to do this? This is ridiculous. And then there are other times where I'm able to just go in and just do it. But every single time that I get out, I feel amazing. And I am so happy that I did it. I am so happy that I pushed through the hard things because I feel 1,000 times better. I do not care if it is a placebo. I do not care if it's actually doing nothing in my head. The way that I feel after I have done it is amazing, and it carries with me throughout the day. Even if it doesn't do anything physiologically for me, I have a mindset that is taking me through the day where if I am faced by hard things, I was like, I've already done hard things today. I did a cold plunge for 3.5 minutes. I pushed through that. I know that I can push through that. I know that my mind is strong enough to push through these things. So I can do these things. I can do hard things. I can do this. So I'm going to push through. And that is a feeling that you only get by doing hard things. I have someone close to me who often talks about different difficult situations that they've been through. And now I am going to place a large umbrella over this because I do not understand this, and I am not pretending like I am, and I'm not trying to belittle anything. But anxiety to me is something that is foreign to me. I don't understand the feeling of it. I have sympathy for people who have it and where it like really cripples them. I genuinely do, I don't know the feeling. And I know that I'm probably very grateful for not having that feeling of really understanding it. Or maybe I do have it, I just don't actually reconcile the two. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's some deep trauma that I need to figure out. However, there are many times where this person has talked to my wife and I and been like, oh, I'm having really bad anxiety, I can't do this, or I'm having really bad anxiety, so I can't go to this thing or do this. And I said to my wife, I was like, I don't want to be insensitive because I genuinely believe that anxiety is a real thing. I think it is a very real thing, and it can cripple many, many people. However, I don't know that that's anxiety. I think that is just something that is hard to do, and you don't want to do it. And I think there's a big, big difference. And I think we have a culture that is continuously, what's the word? Gratifying. That's not the word. We have a culture that is rewarding. That's the word. And I think that we have a culture that is rewarding people who have anxiety and rewarding people and giving them a pass on doing hard things because it comes down to anxiety. And I actually would be so curious to talking to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about in regards to anxiety, because like I said, I don't know that a person can do great things without going through hard times. I don't know. I genuinely believe that is a prerequisite for doing great things. And when this person comes and says, oh, I can't do this because my anxiety is so bad, I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I think it's just you don't know what hard feels like, and you need to understand what hard feels like so you can continue to push through. And I am not about the culture of just being like, oh no, like just do it, let's just grind away, because I think there are many of like our grandparents and parents who have probably have like crazy trauma from doing things like that and not actually acknowledging the things that they are doing. However, I do also think that there's the other side of it where there are people there's like a very, very soft group of people who are just using it as a crutch because it is something that is rewarded in our culture. And it's like, no, that's just something that's hard to do, and you need to understand how to push through that and how to do it, because it is something that is going to be beneficial for you. And life is not supposed to be easy. I think an easy life is a life that nobody actually truly wants, because if that was the case, you would have zero progress, and you would be a horrible person if you just have this simple, easy life. That's why, like, you have, like, you know, rich kids and different stereotypes like that, where it's like, oh, you've been given everything. Like, an easy life is not someone who is not something that builds character or something that is like attractive to majority of the people in the world, or something that, again, that is going to create legacy, that has character and authenticity to it, somebody that has integrity, because they can relate to other people and they have these attributes in them that are only achieved through doing hard things. One of our friends asked us this question the other day when we were camping, and my wife and I have talked about it like multiple times since, and they asked the question because we were talking about like my childhood, and we're talking about like different role models in my life and different situations that had happened, and I was like, I genuinely am very grateful for like my parents getting divorced. I'm very grateful for like a lot of the bad things that happened throughout my childhood, because it gave me a lens and a perspective on the world that I know that I didn't want. It was a version of life that I knew that I didn't want. So at a really young age, I feel as though that I was like given like this perspective that I was like, I don't want that. And it enabled me to build the life that we wanted. And the other thing is, with my wife and I both growing up in similar situations, we had each other. And when we met, when we were like 12 and 13, we would like start talking about like what we do want, what we don't want. What are some of the things from our parents that we actually do like or we don't like, and all of those things. And we were able to build the life that we wanted to, so that like when we got married, it was like almost inevitable. Like it was just like, okay, so this is the life that we want to build, because this is the life that we had been talking about for years and years that we wanted to build. And so our friend asked this question. I was like, do you think that you're doing a disservice to kids who have good parents? Like, if a kid has good parents, is that doing a disservice to them? Because I said to her, like, I am so grateful for all these bad things that have happened in my life, and I don't think there's anyone who has ever done anything great in the world who hasn't had tough times, hard times, troubled times, horrible childhood. There's no one who had those things. There's no one who like grew up with great parents and changed the world, or who grew up with the perfect situation and changed the world. And again, I was being like pretty broad in that, but then she asked the question, and I was like, do you think that being a good parent is actually doing a disservice to your kid? And I was like, oh, that's really, really interesting, because obviously they cannot be black and white. Like, of course, being a good parent is beneficial to your kid. And there are more stories of bad parents and that generational bad parenting continuing, and people falling into, systems and different habits that they've had, that their parents like laid out for them, with like gangs or poverty, all of those things. Like, there's like this habitual life that is just being lived over and over, generation after generation. And so, like, I think in general, yes, good parents are good. Like, you want to have good parents, and you have a great childhood, and you want to avoid as much as possible having being a bad parent. I think in general, that's the consensus. However, it's a really interesting concept, because although we can never ever test this in reality or in like a controlled state, I think it's a really, really interesting concept, because like I said, you cannot do great things in life without having hard times or understanding what hard feels like. I do not believe it is possible. And that is something that I genuinely believe is something that I actually have a lot of hope for when it comes to like AI coming out, because I don't believe that an AI is going to be able to replicate genuine authenticity and character and the intangibles that humans have. I think the people who have those things are able to leverage AI while using authenticity. I think those people is what's going to change the world going forward, because inevitably, just like AI is a tool going forward, and if you're able to use that as a tool to like help tell your message or explain who it is that you are, I think that is extremely important. But there's a reason why in this world, or even with working out, like there's a, when people say like they have cheat days, like a cheat day is a day where you get to eat whatever you want to do whatever you want, you don't work out because it's cheating. Like the easy way out is the cheat day, where like the non-cheat day is getting in the gym, working hard, ensuring that you're doing the right things. It's like, it's funny to me because that language is so commonly used that it's the easy way is cheating. Like people know that doing hard things is what is going to make you better, but it's hard. So not everybody's going to do it. And doing the hard thing is really what's going to set you apart and continue to push you forward. And it's hard, and it's supposed to be hard. And I think that is something that is interesting, because it's knowledge that everybody knows. It is knowledge that everybody understands, and we use it when in terms of like I said, like in cheat days, like it is common knowledge. It is common. It's in our vocabulary. It's in our culture that like doing hard things is more beneficial. But it's the people who actually do the hard things and want to continue to do the hard things because they know that it's making them better. This is the difference. The difference that separates somebody who is going to accomplish their dreams are the people who go to the gym and leave the gym and avoid the food that they said they were going to avoid because they went to the gym, rather than going to the gym and using that as an excuse to eat whatever they want. That's the difference, is whether you take the gym with you or the gym is an excuse for you to cheat throughout your life. Doing hard things is what is going to make you a better person. It is what's going to make you accomplish and achieve all your dreams.